I gotta turn it off.
Savage.
Yeah, you can turn it off if you like. That's all right. This is how we get. I might just keep this as the intro of the podcast. While you turn that off, I'm going to talk about our sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thanks very much for coming back for another Savage Snowflake podcast with me, Jeff Leach. I am so desperately apologetic that last week we didn't have an episode. I was away in Vegas. I had some work going on after that. I had a week run of shows, and I just decided I needed a week off. However, I want to say thank you very much to Dan TB, brand new Patreon, upping his patronage to $35 a month. You absolute legend. I've written a hand postcard for you that's been sent off to you all the way in Australia. So thank you, Dan TB. If you want to become a supporter of the podcast, check out patreon.com/Savage Snowflake to support on there. And also big shout out to our sponsors. We've got Boundless Tech over here, the finest purveyors of vaping technology. If you want to use code SAVAGE over at bmdlstech.com, that's boundlesstech.com, you will get yourself 25% off all of their wonderful units. Incredible stuff, flower, vapes, distillate, resin, whatever you like to smoke, you can do it there without those dirty carcinogens. And also check out manscaped.com down here, the finest purveyors of refining the gentleman wear and I guess technology for them as well. If you want to get your downstairs areas on point, gentlemen, maybe your lady's been complaining about your hirsute girth and length, then make sure you get yourself a lawnmower 2.0. Trim that shit down. Stop having sweaty balls. What's wrong with you, you fucking animal? Go to manscaped.com, use code SAVAGE. You get yourself 20% off all orders. You get a free leather travel bag, and you get yourself free shipping. My guest today, walking in at the most perfect, opportune moment, is actor and comedian Bryan Callen.
Athlete, yogi. Philosopher, yes.
Maker of coffee. Have we swapped coffee?
That's your almond milk.
There we go, we'll pass it.
Yeah, I wish I was a philosopher, but that would require original thought.
I got to say, actually, first of all, thank you very much for the coffee. Neil Brennan, the only other person I've done a podcast at their house, didn't even offer a drink. Didn't even offer.
Son of a bitch.
Didn't even offer.
Neil, he's such a stoic.
He's such a stoic, isn't he? He likes to keep up the facade the whole time that he hates everyone.
Yeah. Neil's more, he talks about it in 3 Mics, which I loved, actually, his special.
Special, yeah.
I've known Neil a long time, and Neil talks about his sort of serotonin levels. Neil could invent the cure for cancer and
be disappointed in himself about it.
Yeah, figure out a way for humans to teleport, and his serotonin levels will still be at a 4.
Where's your testosterone levels? Because this morning when I opened up the door, you were in a robe.
I was wearing a robe.
It was the most
Playboy,
beautifully Playboy, masculine, and yet with a little coquettish charm as well.
If I had a drink in my hand, it would have been like a cocktail, a mint julep.
I said there should have been some kind of beautiful, Instagram model strewn naked across your couch.
I could never hang out with an Instagram model. Typically, anybody who...
Well, you don't hang out with them. You fuck them, Brian. Well, that's what you do.
Even then I feel, at my age, I feel really pathetic because if I look at someone's Instagram and there's nothing but pictures of themselves, now I'm dealing with just somebody...
A narcissist, a lunatic.
I'm going to have a tough time having dinner. But yes, you're right. They can come over. But I swear to God, now at my age, I think it doesn't... It's just not that interesting.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
No, because at a certain point,
I'm appalled that I'm
fucked up
saying
women.
that.
At a certain point, you go, I fucked up women.
Well, yeah. After a while, you're like, oh look,
now
your body's
more.
amazing, and what I need is substance, you guys. I need connection. No, but yes, I did. I did answer the door in my robe.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was quite a nice reveal. Kept me waiting there for a minute, just for a minute, because you were coming out the shower.
Yeah.
I heard, I don't know, oiling up. It sounded like there was an oiling up.
I took a straight razor to my torso.
Okay.
And then I oiled up. Well, I was taken aback by your Macedonian frame.
Yeah.
And I immediately got lost in your hazel eyes.
Well, yeah, listen, we've already had I feel like an entire podcast worth of conversation before we started it.
Yes, we did. As I was doing my yoga.
You're a man of the world. You've traveled the world a lot. So Macedonian frames is not something that's unbeknownst to
it's true.
Brian of the
Well, the minute I saw you, I went, Macedonian? And you said, partially.
Partially. I said a little bit British as well. You're like East London?
I like it a lot. Yeah, right.
Wait, were you from Leytonstone?
There are a number of different accents in London, from what I understand.
See, you're about the only person in America who I think so far can get away with doing that with me. Everyone, when they hear I'm English, wants to do an English accent, or their version of an English accent.
Well, there's so many different English accents.
Professional actors generally. No. So normally it's like, "Hello, are you from England? Are you?"
It's the worst. There's nothing worse than a bad English accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should say,
accent,
we're the ones with the accent. You guys are the ones that invented the language.
I mean, but language is transient, isn't it? It's it's constantly evolving. Like the language that your kids use versus the language that we use, completely different.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Sowell, who's a scholar, wrote a book called Black Rednecks and White Liberals. It's a really amazing book, and he kind of traces the sort of Ebonics. So like a lot of traditionally the way that a lot of, I guess, the colloquialisms and I think that's the word.
Black folks
that
in the South.
Black folks in the South use came from the British sort of the people that, so they were brought over here as slaves.
Okay.
And the slave owners and the
guilty.
white, and the white sort of people that the African sort of the diaspora, when they were brought to this country, the white slave owners and the white population spoke in ways like I be, you be, and all these kind of things that you hear in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a lot of these colloquialisms. That was all. Well, I wouldn't. I don't know if that's. Oh, that's right. It's, I'll be, and you hear this a lot. They got sort of that sort of was translated into a lot of the sort of honor culture, a lot of the language that came out of the British Highlands, the sort of in that area of Britain. Was transferred to
up north,
Manchester, and it's all this, and they're tough people, and they tend to.
I mean, not that tough. I mean,
well, you can get punched in the face really easily in Manchester. I've never been there, but I've heard.
Trust me, you can get punched really easy in the face in London as well. It
you
happens
can.
to me a lot. If you look like this, people want to punch you wherever you are.
The Brits are violent. The Brits are no joke. You can get it's.
But you know the difference, though. Britain, the worst that's going to happen is someone pulls a knife out of you.
Yeah.
Australia or New Zealand, the worst that happens, someone's going to smash a glass over your head or punch you in the face.
Yeah, but they're Maoris.
In America, fuck. Well, I dated a Maori girl and lived in New Zealand for a year, and that was where I was a phys ed teacher.
Wow.
And lived with a Samoan guy and a Tongan girl, and then dated a Maori chick. It was great.
When you have my frame, I don't care how much you box or how much I'm not fighting any Maoris or Samoans.
But you're nimble. You're like nimble.
Doesn't matter.
Athletic. And
they can weather the storm.
Really?
I can punch them as hard as I can. They can take my right hand.
They can take 20 to the head.
Shake it off and grab me and throw me on my head. Fuck that.
Dude, I think you'd be quite respected amongst the Maoris. They respect cultural awareness and physical prowess.
Yeah.
This is a big part of your personal brand, Bryan.
Well, I respect them, but the problem is I don't know how much they respect me since I'm the size of the average Maori 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm 170 pounds.
No, you'd be the best adopted child they ever had.
Yeah.
They'd raise you.
Maoris, Samoans, Tongans, whenever you go, you look at them and you go, what do you weigh, about 205? And they go,
that's
280.
That's
280.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just dense.
Yeah, and they're 7 years old.
Yeah.
But now I've just got this beautiful picture of like a big, strong Maori woman carrying you in her arms and just like suckling at the breast.
Suckling on giant milk.
My little white boy will one day grow to be a full man.
Mommy.
I don't know why you sounded Native American though.
If it meant I could look more Maori, if it meant I could get some of that bone structure and muscle, I would suck the teat of a Maori woman right now.
Yeah.
I do it every morning.
Dude, I mean, I did suck the teat of a Maori woman for at least a year.
Wow.
Yeah, not for sustenance.
That's impressive.
For pleasure, just for pleasure.
I'm impressed that you stepped to a Maori woman, but you're a Macedonian man.
Yeah.
So you can't be light in the ass.
Well, let me ask you then, because whilst you're a white dude, you said that you've got Germanic and Irish and Italian.
51% Southern Italian,
okay,
which means all peasantry, and the rest is Western Europe.
See now, look, Italian peasants are pretty, they're pretty swarthy and dark, and they like the dark ladies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel a bit like that. I have certainly, I've dated a lot of white girls, but I have the penchant for a darker skinned lady. I like culture.
Me too, bro.
There you go.
Me too. Listen, I was just in Miami.
Yeah.
And for me, in many ways, Latin women, just the way they carry themselves.
Yeah.
I say this a lot, but I have an unhealthy obsession with Latin culture.
There's nothing,
it's not just
nothing unhealthy about that.
Yeah, it's not even just about the women, it's about they have a secret. I think it's the way they grow up in families, and they tend to be like the Venezuelans and like the South Americans, and they tend to be a bit class conscious.
Right.
But Cubans, for me, they seem to be the perfect mix of cosmopolitan and island. And they just, I don't know, man. I love Dominicans. I just love all of that. Whenever I'm around a group of those people, I feel like I'm at home. Because I've never felt, I feel that way about Arabs also because I grew up around them, for 8 years, but especially Latin people.
So let's backtrack a bit, because I feel like on every podcast that I've either seen you on or heard you on, which is, obviously you have the Fighter and the Kids, your own podcast, and then you also appear a huge amount with Chris D'Elia, because you guys are very good buddies on lots of podcasts together.
Yeah.
We know a lot about you, Bryan Callen, the performer, the slightly exaggerated character version of oneself as well.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying he did, when I came in, there was yoga happening.
There was
he
yoga.
did bench press 750.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it literally picked me up on the couch. It was crazy
That's right.
weird. I was like, what are you doing,
I bear
Bryan?
hugged him and I was doing
like,
squats.
I'm just showing you I can, big man. I'm just showing you I can.
Get on my shoulder, Macedonian.
But I feel like once you've found a very identifiable comic voice and comic character, it's hard to sometimes be on a podcast and just go, right, who was Bryan Callen before he became, the flamboyant thespian that we see and the absolute killer of stages. When every time I've seen you perform stand up,
thank you.
There was a little boy who traveled all the way around the world.
Yeah. Yeah,
so where did you live? You were telling me just before that you...
Well, I was born in the Philippines, then we moved to Calcutta and then Mumbai.
Okay, why Philippines?
My father was a banker.
A banker? I was going to think military brat.
No, but he probably had something to do with the military.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't know.
Well, you just keep waking up free.
He worked in olive oil.
You keep waking up free every morning. He'll do what he does. All right. But
Your dad was a spy. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I know he probably had something, but I think for the most part he was a banker. And so then, back then when the banks were international and they were going to different parts of the world, but to grow up, in the Philippines, then to live, I don't remember it. I was young, but Mumbai, Calcutta, Lebanon, Pakistan, Lebanon again. The war broke out. We were evacuated to Greece.
I was going to say, have you ever thought that your parents were just trying to get rid of you?
It gets better. It gets better. And I talk about this in my stand-up
Iran
now.
next. Let's go.
Well, that was what my father would do. He'd come home and go, we can go to the Ivory Coast or Saudi Arabia. And in this case, we went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And then I went to boarding school.
Yeah.
Because the schools didn't go past 8th grade in Saudi Arabia.
Any pedophile teachers?
I didn't have any pedophile teachers. I had
wasn't a real boarding school.
I had some. Well, I wasn't there long enough, and it wasn't boarding school. The boarding school, for whatever reason, there was none of that. But at my summer camp, there was some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told on one of them because he was feeling my dick, and I went to the. I wasn't.
I'm sorry for laughing.
Yeah.
But it's just like.
Well, my buddy Donnie goes, he sucked my dick, and I go, well, I'm going to fucking tell on this guy. This is not normal.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't tell anybody.
How old were you?
I was 12, 13, I don't remember. But I remember just going, this is not normal, man. So anyway, and back then, this was in the 70s. They were like, move on.
How old was this guy?
He was an arts and crafts teacher.
Archetypal, 50-year-old, weird, or was he a young?
He was a sweet, he was a pudgy, he was married.
Okay.
He was married, I think, to the arts and crafts teacher. She was a large, kind of mannish woman.
Yeah.
Beautiful
dick as well. That guy.
Yeah, she had a hell of a dick on her. Yeah. But he was a very sweet man. I remember throwing a ball to him, and I remember him not being able to catch it. Okay. I never forgot that. I was like, this guy's never done a sport. He was a pear-shaped, soft, kind man who was clearly in love with young boys.
Right.
You understand? I mean, so there's the pedophile that is the predator guy who rapes boys and stuff. This guy was if I'm really in dangerous territory, but my memory was
just sitting back and
this guy was
continue.
Yeah. This guy my and I'm not making light of fucking child molestation. Obviously, I'm
sure, of course.
But this guy was. The kind of guy who had soft hands, pear-shaped, and not aggressive. He was just in love. I remember him, he would look at us. And I remember going, I picked up on it. I said to my buddy John, I go, this guy I think this guy's into us as boys.
Yeah.
Because we'd be skinny dipping as boys were like 13, and he was there. Now, why is he why? Because we'd go on camping trips, canoe trips.
Yeah.
And of course, he was the camp counselor. He was the guy who was
was.
Well, of course he was.
Oh, I'll look after the swimming.
There you go. So you have to. Now we know these things. Now we're like. Now you would never have one man in charge of all those boys. You'd have another man.
Did you have the same thing in America?
You'd have a chaperone.
Did you have the same thing in America that when someone was clearly a pedophile in England, they just went, he's a bit of a character. Did they ever say that phrase?
I don't remember that. I just remember when I told on the guy.
Yeah.
You know, in today's world, the cops, it'd be a disaster.
Oh yeah.
In back then, I remember very well when my mother told me when they confronted his wife, she said, "Oh God, he's up to that stuff again." And then they were both kind of like moved on. They were just like, "You guys have to move on."
Has he been playing with little boys' dicks? I tell him honestly, it's terrible for him. I can't understand.
I don't remember though. There was, because I spoke to my friends. There was no penetration with his, you know. But
he gave yours a little.
Yeah, well, we were all together in the tents, so I woke up with his hand down my pants.
Oh, that's pretty fucked up. Yeah, that's serious.
And I was like, oh wait, this doesn't register. I was young enough, but I was like, this doesn't make sense. And then my buddy told me, yeah, he sucked all this stuff. So anyway, I got him out of there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. But I bet he walked away though. They just went,
that's what it used to happen.
That's fucking crazy.
And that's why I have such a problem with the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
These guys were pedophiles and using the cloth as an excuse to rape children.
And also to wipe up jizz stains.
Yes, that too. The cloth is always good for that. And I used to always be like, oh man, come on, this is an aberration. No. This was the norm, it seems. I mean, the numbers.
Isn't this the norm of like, don't get me wrong, again, I'm not going to put myself in a terrible situation. You know, touching children in any way, shape or form is wrong, but should never have a but after that.
Yeah.
And historically, the Greeks, the Romans, we all took a young boy with us when we went off to war.
I don't know if that's
supple boy.
Yeah,
They're still fucking kids.
I don't know if that's true, but I do know if you read Socrates, if you read Plato's Republic, if you read Plato, the Symposium, whatever, they would. It's in the text. I mean, they would say, "Let's go get ourselves. We'll have some wine. We'll have ourselves a nice boy."
Yeah.
And it
was like a digestif at the end of a meal.
Yeah. My feeling is that was probably a pocket of gay men who they had slaves back then.
Yeah.
So but we're dealing at a time when slavery.
So what you're saying is pedophilia is cool as long as you own the person.
Well, that's and that's what I'm trying to get at, and that's the theme of the podcast.
As long as you have the correct paperwork,
well,
then you're allowed to diddle.
Exactly. When you hear about them going to have sex with boys, well, they also had slaves.
Yeah.
And Plato, the great moral thinkers of our time. Never, like if you read Socrates, you read Aristotle, you read Plato, they were talking about the moral virtues and how to be a good person. Seneca, how to live your life. None of them mention the fact that they owned human beings.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing?
Or through humans to lions.
Fucking kids is not when you own children.
Yeah.
When you can sell a woman's child.
Yeah.
Pedophilia. Shut up. You know.
Yeah, exactly. That's, if anything, that's like a nice warm embrace. As opposed to being thrown into the workforce.
That's exactly. The great thing is that when people say we haven't made progress, listen, man. Back in the day, slavery was the order of the day.
Well, society now is moving so fast. This is what is going on right now. I think, at least in terms of social climate, a huge amount of it I'm very in support of. You know, and there's some elements that I feel like are going a little overt. As comics, we're always slightly more aware of that when it gets overt PC culture, But 50 years ago, people of color couldn't vote in this country. 100 years ago, or 70 years ago, women couldn't vote in this country. 100 years ago, it was still all right to beat the shit out of your wife in a street and no one would question you because
she was your property.
That's your property. Yeah. So, when we look at thousands and thousands and thousands of years of history, you know, it's crazy how far we have come, but then...
We've moved in the right direction, I think.
Yeah.
At least now, when you talk about someone's, you know, humanism, their essence as a human being, that is sacred, right? So when you trample on someone's sensibilities, I think we've gone way too far to an extent.
Yeah.
But when you trample on someone's sensibilities, I think the idea that we are all morally equal, we're all of the same moral worth, that's really taken hold. If you were to say to anyone, that's the real religion that all of us embrace in at least the Western world. If you were to say to anyone...
the concept of value of human life.
The value of someone's essence, the value of someone's autonomy.
Right.
So in other words, if I were to say, I just don't want this transsexual working in my work environment because I think they're crazy.
Yeah.
Or
I'd say you probably shouldn't have gone into the arts, Bryan.
Well, no, but I mean, well, that's true. But I don't know. I know very few. But just if you were to even say, even to the point where you were to say, that person is wearing a wig and has a mustache but identifies as a woman,
Yeah.
I don't think they're a woman. I'm not going to call them a woman.
Yeah.
You in corporate America, you probably lose your job. So I think,
thank you. Yeah.
I think that we've kind of gone. I think we don't know how to talk about this. We don't know how to.
Well, because there's
I don't know what to
no
do with it.
precedent. There's no precedent for
Yeah.
it. We're trying to make up the rules as we go along. People are expecting people to be completely and utterly on board with everything. Going, well, you got to give a little time for people to understand.
Well, do you know what how I
happening.
feel about transsexual? I've the people that I've met that were
Tell me.
that were transsexual. Let me tell you, I didn't need this fucking movement. When I saw that, I would be protective over that person.
Yeah.
I look at that person as someone who's either deeply confused or fragile, or in a world we're born into a body that they don't identify with. I'm telling you this. I had this feeling way before this
Well, there's
bullshit.
the argument that his body an extension of body.
I don't care what that all is. My feeling was I don't know what it is. I'm not a fucking psychologist. I don't think they know what it is.
Sure.
This is the human brain is a mystery. But my default, regardless, was to somehow be more protective over that person.
Of course, yeah, because you know they're certainly struggling with something. They're amongst the minority.
Yes.
And it's probably day to day. It's the same with me and my gay friends growing up. Of course, I'd be more protective of my gay friends. Because I'd be like, well, because they're not what is considered the norm, so people will treat them differently. So
Yeah.
therefore, I want to make sure they feel as included. And
Well, I'm
you
old
know.
enough to remember when being gay was dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when
I mean, it's still a little dangerous if you go to the right clubs, Brian.
Yes, it is. Especially, well, it's
Depends what
dangerous
you
for
wear.
me as a straight man.
Yeah.
But because I don't wear a shirt when I go out, but
Just an oiled up chest.
but it was dangerous when back in the '80s. You know, I remember when being gay. First of all, making fun of gay people was an acceptable prejudice.
Yeah.
It was acceptable.
You get the shit kicked out of you in the streets if you're on the
For real.
Yeah.
I bet you in the '80s, if you walked up to the average gay man, I guarantee he got the shit beat out of him for being gay,
Yeah.
and it was okay.
Yeah.
And I remember always
He was into that.
because he was into getting stomped.
It's like, yes, daddy.
No, I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not gonna. I don't know if anybody said maybe under controlled
He was
circumstances.
super into it,
Yes,
yeah.
I like the way your characterization of a gay man being beat up. Yes, Daddy.
Yeah.
But I do think we've come a long way, and I don't need a fucking social movement to be fair-minded.
Are you becoming more socially aware and more philosophical the older you get? Do you find that you're more interested in that stuff?
I've always been rather compassionate. I've always, part of the reason I educate myself on things is because I give a fuck.
Okay.
I'm afraid, I'm always terrified that the wrong ideas are going to gain a foothold.
How do we find the right balance though? Because another part of what we do, and I've seen this, you yourself, I've seen you on podcasts, never hate or demonize or be, mean to any particular group.
Yeah.
But part of what we do as comics is banter. We push the boundaries of what we're saying. Like I already made a joke about, unless he's into it, some of them might be into it.
Yeah.
Clearly gay men are not into having the shit kicked out of them
Some of
by
them might be.
homophobes. Yeah. But that's it. I'm pointing out
not by homophobes.
do you know what I mean? It's hard to find that balance where you can go, all right, I still want to make jokes about these things, but I also want to be socially conscious enough that I live my life in a decent way.
You're fair-minded.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody. This is probably how you feel. This is how I feel. I never have wanted somebody, if they're competent enough to do the job, and they're creative enough. I don't want someone being excluded because of something they happen to be without their, you're not choosing to be gay.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing. Anybody who has a brain. So when you say, how do you figure this out? Well, I was able to see as a young kid, I was like, that person's not choosing to be that way.
Sure, of course.
Fucking the way they are.
Otherwise, they choose probably to be the thing that is more socially acceptable because it's an easier life.
Yes, I remember when a gay man came and spoke to our high school. And I said, well, do you want to get fixed or something? I was saying, what do you think you could do? And he goes, you're acting like I want a cure. I don't. I'm gay. And that's why I was 17 or whatever. I'd never met a gay person.
Yeah. Super hard.
Well, I had a family member, but I remember going, damn, I guess
technically you met one when you were 12 at camp.
Well, that is true. That is true. That's a pedophile. There's a difference. There's a difference. Yeah, so that's interesting. I guess part of it is just being exposed.
Well, that's it. I mean, I imagine growing up in the Philippines, moving, across like Middle East and living in various different countries. You'll gain, I would hope, some kind of cultural awareness, some kind of awareness of the difference of humanity.
Or the similarities.
Well, there you go. And then also finding things that you can empathize with all these different people, whether they're, little Filipino kids living in a rural village, or, a sheikh living in the Middle East, or,
well, that's
downtown New York.
That's the hardest thing to confront for us. The hardest thing to confront as human beings is to realize that the Uyghurs who are being rounded up in concentration camps in China right fucking now by the Chinese government, that oppressive regime, and everybody's turning a blind eye to it. When you see that, when you hear about things like that, when you think about, I mean, any group, I don't care how, look, I mean, listen, Syrians.
Yeah.
What's going on in Syria? The worst. And we just did the podcast.
The
worst.
Never take their shoes off when they come in someone's house.
I don't know if that's true.
Which I haven't done, I just realized. I don't even offer.
I wear shoes in my house, don't worry.
Shit, dude.
But any group, the hard thing to confront is whether they're Arabs, whether they're whoever they are in most fucking ways, exactly like you. No, they don't hold. They don't hold human life to a lower standard. No, they don't. I hear this all the time. No, they don't. They hold human life. A lot of times, those groups, like just say the Iraqis, those villages that have been around, they're so tight. Those villages are so fucking tight. So when someone dies and they don't have any money, it's everything. In Afghanistan, when a mother loses her son, it's exactly or more. The pain is more acute. We hate facing that shit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about that. And if you start thinking that way, you'll go crazy.
Just keep distance. The more that you stay in your own country.
It's not Americans. We all do it. It's much easier to be like those people over there, right? It's like this joke I do. If a billion people.
I disagree. Only because as a European, it's so cheap and easy for us to travel to other countries. We generally, as a gross generalization, we get an opportunity to do that. And once you've seen other people in other situations, you have slightly more.
I give that to you.
Of an understanding. Whereas in America, it's very insular. It's very much like America number one. We don't need to see the rest of the world. Go fuck yourself. We got pizza. We got Chinese food. What do we need?
I agree.
And then so it's hard to connect to a Syrian refugee who's just lost their entire family in a with a bomb.
It's very true.
Yeah,
it's very true. It's like this joke I do. If a billion people died, and I agree with you that Europeans didn't have the luxury of being isolated. I mean, World War I, World War II, and all the wars before that brought everybody together against their will. You just had to be aware of how people live over there because it's right across the fucking channel.
I had this a bar downtown LA, and I was some Aussie guy was at the bar being loud and obnoxious, Australian, and he was like,
Australia.
Yeah, he heard my accent. He's like, oh, look at this fucking cunt right here, blah 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 blah. And we had and at first I was like, this guy's clearly a fucking douchebag. Like he's just going to be a nightmare. But after a little bit of conversation, once he dropped the veil of insecurity, which is really what it was.
A convict nation.
Of a convict nation. Once he overcame his convict roots and his chronic alcoholism.
As he was talking to the guy who put him in that fucking island, you son of a bitch.
Exactly.
Although you're Macedonian. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm Macedonian. We marauded across the entirety of the fucking planet, I think, at one point. But we started there having a really good rapport, and we started chatting, and it was really nice. And then some other guy, an American dude, sort of tried to banter in, and the Aussie jumps up nah, he's my fucking cunt, right? He's not your cunt, he's my cunt, because he's Commonwealth cunt. Like, it was just such a lovely...
His Commonwealth cunt.
Even though he effectively he was being a douchebag and battling with me for being British, and we were going back and forth.
Right.
It was almost like, but you're mine to do that with. It's okay, we're allowed.
Well, in a war, if you think about it, if there was an all-out war, the Americans and the Brits and the Australians and the Irish would naturally
we'd all straight band together, right?
We'd band together. Yeah. We'd be like, we speak the same language. That's how human beings are.
But do you think that's white? Do you reckon that's the white contingent of those countries?
Part of it, partially.
Yeah, because I wonder what would happen. I mean, I'm dating a Puerto Rican Jamaican girl, and I wonder whether her and her family would identify with those particular countries.
If they didn't, they'd probably be forced to.
Yeah.
So what happens in war is that the people willing to kill quickly and ruthlessly take control.
So Latin people would be at the front line because those. Have you ever seen it? Don't upset a Latin woman. We're talking about it.
They'd be dancing.
They'd be dancing.
Well, now Latin. Listen, man, you don't want to fight
on the corpses of their enemies.
Yeah, you don't want to fight like Mexican men. If you have an army and you're raising an army for the zombie apocalypse, go ahead and get yourself a lot of Mexican men.
Oh, because they'll take the heads off. They'll
fucking
know.
Fight. They just fight. Yeah. I mean, how many great MMA and fighters and boxers are of Mexican or even Latin?
I don't know.
Believe me, as a fight fan, believe me.
It's a lot, right?
Believe me, that's a good group to align yourself with.
Well, I mean, like you just got to look at the level of retribution for criminality in England or America and Mexico. Yeah. England, we're pretty fucking light. You know, people get a kick in or they get stabbed. Maybe occasionally someone might get shot.
Yeah.
America, they'll shoot you up with ARs.
Americans
and they'll come
are violent.
Fucking But then in Mexico, they will cut your head off, plant it outside the house of your grandmother on a stake, set her alight, and then piss on the ashes. And that's like...
Well, that would be cartel stuff,
yeah. But that's who you want, right?
Yeah.
Zombie apocalypse, I want people who can take the head off.
Well, but if you watch Mexican boxers, they don't retreat. They don't teach you to move back. It's fucking unbelievable. Oh, dude. They'll slip and keep moving forward. And just, you know, I mean, they're the most exciting fighters.
A metaphor for Mexicans coming into this country as well. You can't really look back. You can't sit back and hope someone's going to get you. You just got to keep pushing forward.
Well, yeah, you're not keeping. I do a whole routine on my new special, Complicated Apes.
There we go.
About
I was going to do all the plugs at the end,
it
but
doesn't
that's
matter.
But
about sort of how you're not keeping people like certain people that I know out with a wall. They'll dig under it. I do this whole thing about it, and it's true. I don't like when somebody comes up with one idea. I don't think that's very creative. My problem with the left and the right is that they're not very creative with their solutions. Yeah. So they become very binary. The hard left is the same way. They're so uncreative. Whenever people talk about being socialist, they're so uncreative. Like, let's just tax all the rich. Is that your idea? Cool. How's that worked? Is there a better idea? Is there a way to listen to the right? Is the way for the right to listen to the left? Is there a way to, rather than beat somebody in a debate, is there a way to persuade that person over in your direction so we can solve the fucking problem?
Well, that's loosely the point of this podcast, really. I mean, outside of just getting to talk to interesting comedians that I like and admire, Savage Snowflake is because, you know, I consider myself left of center. You know, I'm a snowflake in terms of political alignment. But then savage enough to go, I fucking hate all the lunatics on the left. You know, if you're fanaticized, if you become so indoctrinated by your
if you're an
political
ideologue,
outlook,
if you are an ideologue, if you have the truth, if you draw absolute lines, I think that's where you're going to run into trouble. These problems, look, here's the other thing to keep in mind. If you're a right wing, or if you identify as a right winger or a left winger, or if you identify whatever, your ideas were given to you. You do not have original political and philosophical ideas. They were given to you. Whether you know it or not, they were given to you. There is a 3,500 year minimum, but let's call it 5,000 year tradition of human beings thinking through what it is to be human, what it is to be liberalism, feminism, humanism were given to you. Okay, they were given to you. The reason you don't believe in slavery. The reason you don't believe in slavery was because of the abolitionist movement, which actually started in your country. Don't fucking tell me that you have your own thoughts. So what happens is some thoughts, some ideas feel emotionally right to you.
Right.
They ground you emotionally. They make sense of the world. Like I'm the same way. I'm not saying I'm not. But it's way fucking better if you have a problem like gun control, if you have a problem like whatever you want to call it, racism or whatever. Put the problem on the table. Don't be so attached to your fucking identity, because your identity was given to you in the first place. Put the idea out there, and then let's try to solve the problem with ideas.
Yeah.
That you don't have to be attached to, you fucking idiot.
Well, that's meant to be the role of governance, right? That's meant to be the role of debate, open forum debate in governments of the country. But that doesn't happen in this country because it's a broken formula. You know, the people who came to, my ancestors who came to this country, your ancestors as well, who came to this country, did so with fanatical religion, you know, the pilgrims who came out because the Europeans were way too soft. And then a broken formula of capitalism, which only works literally in the writing of the manuscript that capitalism is based on. There you go. It's like it says it can only work if the governance is solely for the people, solely consumed with protecting the interests of the people and the populace and making sure they're treated in an equal and fair way, which in this country wasn't. They were about big business. The government was business as well. So it's all pushed on that side. But I think there's a different way that people talk that you clearly display based on the simplistic thing of living in other places around the world. That's going to have a huge effect on you.
The truth is, as an individual, if you really boil it down,
Yeah.
you're truly free.
Yeah.
You are responsible for your actions no matter what.
You believe that? You don't think we have predestined...
Look, there's the subconscious that works itself through you.
Okay.
I don't think we are. I think we're emotional creatures. I don't think we're necessarily in control of the decisions we make. Robert
And in the
Sapolsky
grand
talks
scheme
about
of things,
this.
we make no fucking difference to anything. We are dust in the wind.
Yeah. Antonio Damasio, I believe that's his name. He's a neuroscientist. He does some amazing work on how this isn't true.
Right.
Robert Sapolsky, there's a book called Behave, which traces the origins of your decisions, which could go back 2 months. You don't know. You're certainly not the author of your thoughts.
Sure. Okay.
But having said all that, you could choose to live in Nietzsche's world, which is I am fully and totally responsible for every decision I make, and I am going to express myself fully, completely, and originally.
What a scary concept.
And it's terrifying
It
because
is.
you're born a camel with all this weight on your back, and it's up to you to shrug that weight off and become a lion.
Yeah.
Be your own moral compass, your own movement, so that you are not, your guide is no longer the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Quran. Your guide is no longer Nietzsche. Your guide is no longer Immanuel Kant or Socrates. In fact, your guide is your own deep and earned understanding of what it is to be a complete human being. And turn your life into a circus, turn your life into something as colorful and as dangerous and as exciting as the heroes that you revere.
Tony Robbins, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Tony Robbins.
I know. But this is Nietzsche.
This is what's going to happen. You're going to have continue your immensely successful comedy and acting career. You're going to do that for a few years. You're going to release a couple of books. You're going to move into, like Rogan moved into more philosophical podcasting, that you're going to start doing motivational speeches.
Oh, God.
You're going to start your own cult. You're never going to leave that robe. That's what you'll wear all day, every day.
Never.
Oh, Jesus.
Here's my self-help
You're going to grow your hair out like me. It's going to be fucking amazing.
I would love to, but my hair doesn't grow like that. I don't have any Macedonian in me.
You can get like a weave.
I could get a weave. I could use your hair. I could pay
Latin
you for your
women,
hair.
Chat to a couple of Latin girls. They'll take you to a good salon.
And get their hair.
You're going to have long hair, nails.
I want Latin.
I'm
waiting until they can...
ready for some philosophy?
No, they're gonna fucking gene edit, and I'm gonna go. I want Macedonian genes. I want olive skin. I want some height. I can't wait.
I identify as a Macedonian. That will
Fuck
be your...
yes. I'm gonna identify as a Cuban, actually.
Guys, you seen how tan Bryan Callen is these days? Yeah, he's fucking, and he dances like a beast.
I want to be Cubano. I want to be a Cuban man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been texting all my friends. I'm a Cuban man. I have Cuban blood. I dance.
Just get an old 1950s American car, start smoking cigarettes and wearing white Panama hats.
I want it all.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. I'm telling you. You think I'm kidding? I'm gonna move to Little Havana.
You know what you were just talking about prior to our beautiful little foray into what Cuban life could be like for you. What you were describing, I think, is indicative of where my head is starting to go. As I'm 35, so I feel like I'm starting to put pieces together a bit more clearly in my mind of what I want to be, how I want to live, how I want other people to perceive me. And I've made lots of mistakes, from throughout my TV career back in the UK, comedy out here, etc., etc. I'm trying to rectify those or not make any more of them. One thing is about being alpha, the concept of being an alpha man, and what I think truly represents an alpha man. And as much as the humor of posturing of and I know you are, you do really take training seriously, your physical training, and also clearly reading and expanding your mind is something that you place a lot of importance upon. But I think the most alpha thing that someone can do is to acknowledge their insecurities.
I agree.
Conquer them, and constantly be open to the idea that there will be more insecurities. Like by doing that.
I couldn't agree more. I find the talk of alpha stuff embarrassing. I get embarrassed. Really? I don't believe in it. What do you mean an alpha? In what context? In a comedy context? I mean, is a Navy SEAL, would a Navy SEAL who's probably an alpha male, would that Navy SEAL be alpha if I put him in the tech world and told him to innovate? He'd be a student again.
Mm-hmm. But if he went into that world, you said, right, this is what you're now doing, and he went, okay, cool, I don't know anything about this, so what an alpha man would do is go, I don't know anything about this, I'm open to learning from people who I think are brilliant and better. All the comics that I like and admire are men that I think are incredibly alpha, but not douchebags. They're not douchebags, they don't make other people feel belittled or small or insignificant. They're strong, powerful, talented, brilliant, handsome, whatever they happen to be, and they also will look for the worth in other people. They will acknowledge their own failings. That's the most.
I think that what you're talking about is, as you become more successful, you have a responsibility to be in a position of service. I want to service the good ideas, and I want to make a difference in that regard. And I think an alpha, part of what wisdom, a good way to define wisdom, is coming to terms with your own limitations. As you get older, when you're my age, I work out and stuff. It's not getting better next year, dude. It's getting worse. Your body,
really?
Father Time slows you down.
You could do another 8 years of getting better.
Sure.
From 60 onwards, maybe.
When I get on TRT, when I start doing testosterone, which I fucking will eventually, when I do my gene editing,
if it's good enough for Hugh Jackman, it's all right, man.
Fuck yeah. When I get my eyelids done by this plastic surgeon, whatever it is I decide to do, yeah. I'm trying to stop time, but it's a fool's errand. The truth is...
Will you really do that? I can't see you do. I think you're jesting. Will you do, physically modify yourself to continue to feel young and powerful?
I doubt it very much.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think something like you would.
Because I think that it's to miss the point of the human experience.
Yeah.
I am limited. I can be killed immediately. I am basically a balloon walking around in a forest of pins, and that's what it is to be a human being. And it doesn't get better. You don't get stronger. You will reach your limits, and you will be humiliated and broken by your own biology. And so you got to know that, man.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what resveratrol or all your fucking supplements. You're going down, bro. You're going down. Yeah. If you're a woman and you are beautiful, that's not going to last. If you were a man and the baddest guy on the planet in the octagon, you have about 8 years tops before Father Time goes, all right, now you had your time.
Yeah. Your knees
Take
are gone.
a seat.
Good luck.
And we all go through it.
Of course.
And you lose your relevance as you get older.
But also this is, I think, the definition of alpha male has been misused.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. I think, it's not about I wear a comfy little jumper and blah, blah, blah.
Well, it comes from biology. I think it comes from the naturalists. I think it comes from
Well, it's just the etymology of the term alpha.
I think it comes from the primatologists who saw that the alpha male... See, the alpha male was never a positive thing. The alpha wolf... Usually the alpha male, at least in the primate kingdom, is not a very nice guy.
Kind of a dick, right?
He's the biggest, strongest enforcer. And, Jordan Peterson talks about how society is organized around might makes right. The man with the biggest muscles and the biggest club. Those societies are not very stable. In primates, in chimpanzees, when an alpha male starts killing and beating up everybody, guess what happens? The females band together and take him out.
Yeah.
The females in chimpanzee, they'll band together and go, you know what?
Now.
This motherfucker, that's right. They have their own Me Too movement.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? This asshole's poisoning our environment. And Robert Sapolsky, who studies baboons, the minute the alpha males died of tuberculosis, because they were all eating all the trash first, and they weren't letting it else. And then all of a sudden, the beta males came along, and they started running They were kind of like grooming, and they were a little bit more cooperative.
Yeah.
The whole fucking place was nicer. And I have to confront this because as a capitalist, as a free market guy, as somebody who competes, who's always like thinking like that there's a war, an impending war, I do agree that there is something about a collective mindset maybe a little bit of a communist mindset, a little bit of a socialist mindset. And I hate saying this, but it may be there's room for a little of that because it makes us a little happier.
Sure.
But fuck, I don't know.
Well, if you've got a consensus, most people are on board with an idea, then it's going to be easier to implement it. There'll be less friction, less conflict, and that can only be good. But I'm also going to be honest, and I don't know if you're the same. I very regularly am guilty of letting my my Homo erectus part of myself come to the forefront. I like hitting stuff. Yeah. I don't like being violent.
No, but
if someone hurts one of my friends or someone, grabs a girl I'm with and like assaults her,
you punch him in the face.
Yeah, and it feels good though, Brian.
Yeah,
it feels really fucking nice.
Fuck yeah.
And that's only coming from a.
Why do you think at 52 I still spar? Yeah. Why do I obsess and talk to all my buddies who are pro fighters? Why do I obsess on a jab and how to move? Why does it bother me I'm not doing jiu-jitsu anymore? But because I want to be the guy that if you fucking touch my girl if I'm with my wife and you touch her in a bar, that's the mother of my children. I'm going.
Yeah,
I want to be able to at least be able to do that, or at least be able to put up a fight.
Yeah.
Right. My biggest fear is that I'm like, oh no, don't.
Well, it's kind of one of our simplistic job descriptions as well. Be a man.
Guess what? Ready for this?
Go.
It's attractive to a lot of or most women.
I know. I know.
I don't give a fuck how progressive you are. When they
if you want to get fucked, you should at least look like you can protect the woman who wants to fuck you.
When they see a dude your size, what are you, 6'5"?
6'4", yeah.
6'4", broad shoulders. I mean, you're an aggressive dude. Look at your podcast. Look at the way you carry yourself. Yeah. You're a button-down dude. You're a successful guy. Guess what? That requires a great deal of aggression and competitive spirit. Yeah. And like you said, you used to.
It's not very celebrated right now, though. Not within the career. I don't think. Not within the industry.
Yeah, and that's a lie because they're lying.
Yeah.
You see, there's a lie going on as well. Because guess what? Let me say it again. Most women.
Yeah.
All of them, are drawn to the guy like you.
What you mean?
The caveman, the guy with the broad shoulders, strong jaw, who's aggressive.
Hypothetically. Allegedly, if you were like someone as handsome as James Franco, you could probably get away with doing some naughty shit and people would be less inclined to go after you.
Yeah.
Because you're incredibly attractive and maybe people want you.
Well, Vanity Fair took him off the cover based on 2 allegations.
Oh, really?
2 allegations. And the allegations were very
weak.
They were weak and they were also not that bad. Where you're like, wait, you were dating him. What happened? I don't even know what you did.
Yeah.
So some of it was like, well, there was nude scenes in the acting class. I've been in acting classes. There's a lot of nudity.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people. Yeah.
Even
and
if
the teacher's always been like, gotta get used to your. I was told I have to get used to my nudity, and I had to be naked.
I've been told by a casting director actually every audition you go up for, you generally put a nude scene in, even if there isn't one in the sides.
Just take your pants off and just do it. Yeah. Well, you should always take your shirt off. I'm Macedonian. Can I do this shirtless?
It feels more natural to me.
But without going into that whole issue,
sure.
But there's no doubt that if you're pretending that male aggression is bad and should be stamped out, you're lying.
Yeah.
Because biology is so much stronger than social.
You like Andrew Schultz, right?
I like Andrew a lot.
So Andrew, I like a lot of what he's been doing. In fact, I feel like you and your crew out here, let's put it like that, your group of friends who are creative and talented, like yourself, Chris D'Elia, Brendan Schaub, Theo Von, Will Sasso, and you guys got a project coming up, which we're going to talk about in a sec. But when you, I feel like your group, and then Schultzy over here with his buddies, with Charlemagne, and
I love Charlemagne.
Yeah,
I don't know him, but I love him.
But they're doing great things. But there's 2 groups of what I think would be archetypally seen, especially current climate, social climate as well, added to that, as alphas. And, these guys they're loud, they're brash, they're flamboyant, they talk about, about physicality and blah, blah, blah. But you don't do what would be archetypally seen as how alpha males behave, which is to try and destroy or emasculate or belittle other strong men.
Exactly. Or people who are more vulnerable.
Was there a change for you personally where you went, oh shit, I don't ever need to compete with these people. I should work with these people. I should find ways, because that's going to only further my own personal interest, and also.
Well, again,
I don't take.
I don't take credit for this, and I don't think anybody's. But Rogan and I used to have these talks about generosity and not being greedy. In other words, there's this idea of famine thinking, like there's only so many pieces of the pie.
Why would I give them that booker's email? Because then maybe I'll lose out.
People get afraid, and it's the wrong
comics,
wrong philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not true. But again, this is an idea that has to be given to you.
Sure.
It was given to me along the line. I'm not going to take credit for it, but it was given to me. So along the line, someone said, and it made sense. Let me give you two examples. One is. Somebody said to me, look, you are, there's no such thing as scarcity. Scarcity doesn't exist.
Right.
There's always room for your expression. Criticize by creating, keep creating. These are truisms or philosophies that came from artists much greater than myself,
right,
way before me. And somehow that permeates, somehow that idea diffuses into our psyche. So that was given to me. And another thing,
but you see how easily you could have gone the other way.
Of course, if I was indoctrinated with the wrong ideas, I would have been a racist. I would have been a sexist. I would have been all these things. Maybe I would have even beaten my wife.
Maybe
a pianist, an aggressive pianist.
An aggressive.
But let me give you an example of why. And I think this was Matthew Arnold, who was a philosopher, an American philosopher. Let me give you how. Like, I was given this idea about why it's important not to marginalize, let's just say, trans people. Let's say why it's important not to marginalize gay people, trans people, weirdos, quote unquote. Let's just say whoever that might be.
Sure.
Well, Matthew Arnold said that you've got to, this is a great country. We'll stop being an interesting culture, a creative culture, and a creative and strong country if we no longer provide safe quarter to our gentler spirits, to the people that are creative. A lot of creatives who just create beauty for its own sake, musicians, fashionistas, artists, techies, like Stephen Jobs.
Oh, they're not running around like
they're
big,
not
strong...
good at CrossFit.
Yeah.
Einstein didn't have abs, and he was, as far as I can tell, he wasn't gluten-free. So these are people that thought differently. You better have a society. When Germany started assassinating their Jewish physicists, their Jewish scientists, because they were Jews. Because of this ideology, guess what they did? They migrated to the UK and the United States, which is why we won the arms race, which is why we came up with the nuclear weapons that we
benefited from that knowledge.
Those nerds came up with the most powerful fucking weaponry in the world and ended the war.
Yeah.
It's so societies that are exclusive, societies that are obsessed with purity and family values along strict lines.
Having said that, Sparta, I mean, if you could have been part of that kind of culture.
Great example, by the way.
There you go.
Great example, though. Let's take Sparta. Let's compare it to Greece. Greece lost 2 disastrous wars to Sparta, and right after that, about 50 years or less, was when this philosophical renaissance came to be.
Yeah.
Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. Well, what is left of Sparta? I'll wait. I'll tell you what's left. I'll tell you what's left of Athens. What's left of Athens is something called democracy, and something called the Platonic way of thought, and Socrates. It goes on and on, sir. It goes on and on. The Western world. It's the roots of Western civilization.
A legacy that could transcend.
You know what's left of Sparta? You know what's left of Sparta?
Fuck all,
the country that
a really terrible movie.
would throw its deformed children off cliffs. What's left of Sparta is a couple shards of clay. And we don't even know if it existed anymore. And guess what else? We don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So, again.
Although, when it comes to storytelling, the stories of the greatness of this Spartan army will always transcend. That will always go down. It's a two-dimensional achievement, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that was more of a Frank Miller invention.
Yeah.
The Peloponnese, what's it? Thermopylae, the gates of Thermopylae. Thermopylae, I think, means hot gates. where he basically said the Spartans were men of reason and philosophy. They weren't, but the Greeks were, and the Persians were men of superstition and slavery and all that. And so he pitted. It was really a modern day sort of homage to. Well, it was more of a modern day homage to. I think Frank Miller's Jewish. It was a more homage to the tyranny that was Saddam Hussein and the movement of this sort of Islamic fundamentalism creeping into Western ways of thought. It was more of his argument. 300 was a great movie for that. It was a great metaphor for
it was, this is the thing, it's kind of a fun spectacle to watch, but didn't have any overarching effects on, like you say, all these facets of society that we now take for granted and they have to exist, like open forum debate and governance, discussions in governance and all that. Yeah, you're right. Everyone needs, no superhero would exist without their nerdy sidekick who creates the fucking suit that they're in, or
superheroes, if they're good superheroes, are vulnerable.
Yeah,
they all have vulnerability, don't they?
Well, that's how they're all written, aren't they? They're meant to
otherwise they wouldn't be. We wouldn't identify with them.
I can imagine you not only playing one but really wanting to play a superhero.
I don't have the bone structure. I need more Macedonian. You could play
Paul Rudd is a fucking superhero now.
That's true. I might be a little too old though. I'd be good to be as a sort of an old superhero.
You would be something like in Watchmen. They got a new TV series, haven't they? But I could have seen you in Watchmen playing like who's the old New Yorkie, with the face wrap, something like that.
Yeah, I'll never do that. Because
you want your face out.
Because I'm not. No, I'm not sitting in makeup for 4 hours. Whenever I see those face wraps, I've done it, and I know that from Mad TV. That's prosthetics, and you're in the chair at 5 a.m. There is not enough money. There is not enough money.
Really?
You could pay me.
What about Wolverine? Wolverine in stature as well was not meant to be an incredibly tall man.
Well, Hugh Jackman, who I've met, is every bit of 6'3".
He is, but it's like the character of Wolverine. If we're going true to the comic books, he was actually smaller in stature, but just violence and power.
Yeah. Well, again, nothing I have to put makeup, like that much makeup or that kind of accoutrement on, ain't happening. I'm not doing a 1 hour either. I'm fucking lazy. I'm lazy. I'm not doing. I'm a podcaster and a stand-up comic and then an actor now. I've decided.
Tell me about the new project. So you said you got your own show.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
It's called Schooled on ABC, which got picked up for another season, which is great.
This is where you play the coach.
This is where I play the coach.
Yeah.
And that's always fun. My special, Complicated Apes, seems to be doing really well, and it's going to start streaming on Amazon June 12th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's the best thing I've ever done. It's the only thing I've ever done that I can watch.
Because a huge amount of your stand-up, some of the viewers will, in fact, quite a number of my viewers will already be aware of you, I'm pretty certain, but those who aren't, watching you perform is I do think, we discussed this again just before the podcast, there's a very British, European, stylistically element to what you do.
God, I love hearing that. That's the best compliment you've ever given.
Really?
I love hearing that.
That's the only compliment I've ever given to any comic
I was
ever.
Gonna say, I take that. I was so flattered when I think you wrote me an email about being.
I wrote an open love letter to you on Facebook.
That's a big deal that you did that.
Dude, here's the thing.
That means you're confident enough to compliment another comic. But I was very moved by that. I thought it was really. I really honor that when another comic is willing to say that.
You didn't even remember until I reminded you just before the
podcast.
But
I remember you said I saw you at the thing, and I was like, how nice.
Venice Underground. Yeah. But here's the thing: is that look, and this all ties into this sort of bigger conversation of alpha and being alpha, and what I think it means to be alpha, and which is something that I'm proud to try and aspire to be every day. And it is when I meet people who I think are brilliant, I like to tell them, because first of all, it's nice to hear it. It's like, I like when people say, hey, you're really funny. That was a really good show. I'm like, thanks. It means a little more to me when it comes from another performer as well.
Fuck yes.
And also, I haven't seen a comic in America doing what you're doing. So your whole conversation earlier, or your comments about trying to be unique and the fear of not doing it your own way, or something that's a little new and fresh, a new and fresh approach. You definitely have that... this is just a fucking dick sucking session.
I love it.
Let me just tell you, Bryan. You really, I didn't even know I wanted to be a comedian until I met you.
Go to work with your Macedonian mouth.
And also, if you don't mind me saying, your bone structure is incredible. I thought,
yeah.
No, but you clearly have a deep love for storytelling.
Yeah.
which a lot of comics in America, they've got good storytelling elements, but it's more about just getting every 15 seconds a tag that gets you a laugh.
Yeah, no.
And you have a nice balance of those two things.
Well, a lot of it's just wanting to be somebody I'm not, too. I like playing characters.
Yeah.
I just am obsessed with, I don't know, so much of it is just wanting to be, I suppose I am an actor first, and it's my excuse to act.
If you were offered a huge new series, let's say it's going to be of the ilk of a Game of Thrones or a Walking Dead back when it was pretty interesting to watch,
Yeah.
and you were offered a lead protagonist, and but one of their prerequisites for the network, which seems quite a few of them have ridiculous arse layers, was you're going to have to step back from the comedy for a while to focus on this because the filming schedule is incredibly.
I don't think so.
Couldn't do it.
I don't think so. And plus, I'd be away from my children. I know what it's like to be on a set like that.
Yeah.
That when you do Game of Thrones, and I just know, I can tell you, I look at the costumes, I look at that scale, and I think to myself, oh, that's 11 weeks of night shoots, which it is.
Yeah.
So you're up all night. You're in the middle of nowhere. I can see it. You're freezing your ass off, and you're having to hold character, and there's so many. All the minutia of you sitting in your trailer with nothing to do and then going over to craft service. I mean, of course, you're friends with your people, and I'm sure all those actors are wonderful. And I know Peter. I know Peter Dinklage a little bit. Yeah. Peter's a great guy. I've known Peter. I knew Peter way back before anybody knew him.
Peter seems like he's the kind of guy you could have a nice couple of whiskeys with on set. Do you know what I mean? In the trailer,
just funny as shit. He's also funny.
Yeah.
People don't realize that Peter Dinklage is a comic.
Yeah.
He's just funny as fuck. So
I've heard his English accent. He's definitely a comic. He's just.
I do have a little problem with his English accent.
Yeah.
I love his acting.
I don't know why he has to do this voice. It's very weird. And he kind of holds his words inside of his mouth.
It's very true, and nobody seems to be bothered by it. I personally,
he gets a pass.
I love his acting. I love his acting. I think he's amazing. It's the only little thing I'd have. Well, but it doesn't matter. He was so great.
I'm sure as he's sitting in his fucking multi-million-dollar home.
He doesn't like hearing it.
He doesn't give a fuck.
No. I guarantee he does. I guarantee any actor, I don't care how famous you are, Peter would cringe at probably the idea that you and I are talking about his accent being a little,
just a little interesting.
All of us are that way. We're actors. We don't want to hear other people say, well, but listen, he did an amazing job.
He's very talented in it.
Yeah. But doing a show like that, you would have to pay me. I could do it if you said, Bryan, it's going to be 2 years, but you're going to walk with $15 million after taxes. Then I'd say, that's life-changing. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I think I would do it then. But 5 years? Now, I don't know how long those seasons are. Is it 4 months a year?
That's so interesting you said 5. I asked you because I turned down a job at the end of last year with Nickelodeon, and it was a 5-year contract.
Yeah.
And it was so like, anything you write in 5 years, we have first refusal to produce.
Fuck off.
And if you do a stand-up special, we have to okay the material because you're representing.
Fuck you, Nickelodeon. Fuck you. Fuck you. I hope they hear this. Go really... fuck yourself. You fucking fascists. You greedy fucks.
Dude, but I'm not going to lie.
You censorists.
There was a part of me that also, though, went, my acting aspirations are definitely... in the same way that you would say, I'm certainly an actor first, maybe, but it doesn't mean that I have any less of a love for the performance of comedy. Like I started it to get back into my acting, and now I'm like, fuck, I have to do this until I die because it fulfills me in a way that acting never will.
Yeah.
But it was that little moment of going, oh, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm in Hollywood. Should I accept this?
That's right.
And then we said no. And now
I think you're smart. Of course you say no to that.
Cool.
Of course
you say no to that. Can you let my accountant know that I was smart?
No, dude,
well,
you're gonna be successful. I can promise you, you're gonna be successful. You already are, but you're gonna be. I can tell. Don't do that shit.
You don't have to do that until you die as well.
What's
it's
that?
Interesting. Comedy. I think some of the best comedians in the world, or the greatest comedians. Let's look at someone who actually had a chance to grow old and then die, like George Carlin. The kind of comedy he did towards the end of his life.
Yeah, love him.
Yeah. It was, but it was
bottom breakfast.
He had a chance to. I feel like so many comics don't even get a chance to reach that age because so many of them die young and prematurely. they don't get to reach a point where, like, look, fucking Greg Giraldo, man. There's a guy who not only I think is still one of my favorite comics of all time,
amazing.
but that motherfucker was so brilliant at 30 whatever when he died, 35 I think. He was about my age. What would he have been like as a 70-year-old man commenting on the world?
Probably great, but he was caught up in that whirlwind of drugs. Couldn't say no.
Yeah.
That's a bummer too. And then you wonder, maybe part of his brilliance was, I don't know, had to be dulled or numbed. Maybe it goes hand in hand. I don't know. He was a Harvard-trained lawyer. I think he went to Harvard Law School. He
went to Harvard Law School. Yeah, and he worked in corporate law before.
I think that's a curse. I just think some people are caught up in that and they can't stop. I don't know what to say about that, but it's a bummer when we lose original expressions like that.
Your last year, I'm going to sort of wrap it in a second, but your last year has been, I feel like, as an outside observer, and I only became aware of you probably a year ago when I first got to LA and did that show and saw you perform. But it seems like the last year has been a great, I know you've had a longevity of career already, but it seems to have really, like, it's almost like you found your voice in a really big way.
Yeah, well, you set these goals for yourself. I said to my wife, none of this is an accident. I wrote all this stuff down. I can show it to you.
Yeah.
I wrote down my goals, right? My own TV show. I wanted my podcast to be really big. I wanted to play out to large crowds as a stand-up. These things were what I wanted.
Did you make a mood board?
No, God, no, I didn't. God, no. But I may as well have because I saw it in my mind. It was just what I wanted.
I just see you cross-legged on the back here with some like transcendental meditation music, cutting out pictures from magazines. Like,
if that
these
works,
are the abs that I want.
Well, if that's what sometimes literally seeing something in color, like. I do think that sitting down and really asking yourself what you want.
Yeah.
Really, but then ask why. I mean, really get down to why.
Yeah, that's
it's very, very, no one does that exercise because you know what happens?
So my parents will finally love me.
That's it, maybe, brother. Maybe.
Fuck. Finally think of me as the successful child that I knew I could be.
Great. Yeah. And I love, and by the way, there's probably a lot of truth to that, but it's nice. Man. It's nice to sit with that and not judge it. Sit with it, feel it, and see where it takes you. Yeah. Don't try to fix it. Embrace it. It's like, I always say this story, like when, I think it was Jeffrey Tambor said, you have low self-esteem. I was like 32, I was in his acting class. And somebody goes, thank God. And in other words, that's why he's funny.
Really?
Don't like yourself too much. So look, whatever the reason, it's not even that important, but just to ask yourself what you actually want. What do you honestly revere? What do you honestly revere? What do you honestly want?
And I'm going to throw that question straight back to you because that's what I want to ask. As someone who over the last year especially seems to have started to really tick off major accomplishments, major desires, goals, career goals, hopes and dreams. What is left? What's
original self-expression? It never goes away. I want to continue to do things that shock and surprise me and an audience. And I think, secondly, I would love to be a positive voice for the good ideas. I'd love to figure out a way, and I am. I'd love to figure out a way to
produce and direct other people's creative pursuits.
No, I don't have time for that. I probably wouldn't be good at that. But more so to figure out a way to get the good ideas that are stuck in books and stuck in the brains of quiet academics, etc., and philosophers.
So basically,
get those ideas.
Derek Zoolander, you want to build the school for kids who want to read good but can't read good yet.
Well, I'd rather do it with adults where I can start to and use comedy as the door, as the lubricant. So if I have a podcast dealing with the big ideas, how do I get it? How do I make it funny enough for everybody to listen to and sneak in some good ideas? That's the mission.
You're already doing that, I
Hopefully.
think. Yeah, you're already doing that.
Hopefully.
Rogan does that. Yeah. I think there's a few podcasters
I hope so.
who like to put a little bit of
I'm trying, but the challenge never goes away.
Progressive thought into there.
Yeah. Progressive thought. Fuck off. I'm so sick of the.
Well, it is. It's progression of the self. But I know it sounds like a very.
No. I mean, yeah.
It's a buzzword phrase.
We all use these words, and I get it. It's just like I don't want to give any group, whether they're the left wing or the right wing, I don't want to give CNN or fucking Fox or Tucker Carlson any credit for
You've already mentioned Jordan Peterson. You're already all right now. You realize that.
He's not all right at all.
I know he's not.
That's 60 minutes. 60 minutes. They did that hit job on him. They are the biggest fucking liars. Like Jordan Peterson is the farthest thing from alt-right.
I know that. But
he's the and 60 Minutes had him as the alt-right thing. You pieces of shit.
But you realize by mentioning his name now, you're part of Ben Shapiro's fan
60
club.
Minutes. I like. There's a lot I like about Ben Shapiro. There's a lot of things I disagree with him on, but I think Ben tends to be a little bit
snappy dresser. Always dresses nice.
He's a little nasty. He's a little his debate style is a little nasty. I don't know that he's in the business of persuasion as much as he could be. He'd
make an incredible drag queen.
He's a cutie pie.
He's not only got a very beautiful feminine face,
yeah,
but he like you say, his snapbacks, his retort. He could read better than any drag queen on any series of RuPaul's Drag Race ever.
That guy's a smart motherfucker.
That's TV. That's all I want to do before I die. Yeah. I want to be able to facilitate Ben Shapiro appearing on RuPaul's Drag Race season 24.
And he'd be calling Ru Sir the whole time.
Only when he's in drag, though.
Yeah.
Only when he's in drag. Yeah.
The rest of the time I like anybody who. I think this country's great as long as we have people like Shapiro, people on the left who are informed, and I like that debate.
Yeah.
You need the left and you need the right. You need both. You need the middle. But you don't want to. You want vigorous, spirited debate. But listen to each other. Have idea sex and idea orgies. That's the way to do it. There you go. Perfect way to wrap it. Idea sex, idea orgies. Yeah. Thanks so much, man, for chatting to me. I'm glad we got a proper sit down and actually got to have a conversation. You're a good man. I want to let all the people know about all the exciting stuff you're doing. So you've got another season of the TV show, Schooled, which people can watch on ABC Wednesday nights at 8:30, starting in the fall, I think. And then I have The Fighter and the Kid. Which is you and Brendan Schaub. Very funny podcast. Always a blast to do. Also, again, I feel like this is why I was excited to talk to you today. This is going to be the first podcast I feel like where someone is not desperately trying to because your dynamic with Chris D'Elia and your dynamic with Brendan Schaub is that of exasperated older brother who is constantly frustrated by that is what I am. His little kid brothers who are trying to steal the limelight. But very, very worth a watch, worth a listen as well. You can check it out, and you got all the episodes up on YouTube, and then of course across all the. If you're in Orlando this weekend, I'll be there at the Improv, and this will go out on Thursday. It's going to go up tomorrow. And Complicated Apes is the special that you can get on iTunes or Amazon or anywhere you buy or rent, and then we start streaming June 12th on Amazon. Yeah. So make sure you check out all those things. Thank you so much, man. Thanks, Appreciate buddy. You. Awesome. I'm going to play the outro. Yeah.